Hello, everyone. This is Greg Drevenstedt, editor-in-chief of Rider Magazine, and your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. Our guest on episode 63 is Justin Bradshaw, who is co-founder and head of business development for REVER, a leading powersports trip planning and routing app with over 2 million users worldwide. Bradshaw was also a co-founder of Butler Maps, and the road gradings that make those maps so popular are also found in REVER. In this episode, Bradshaw and I talk about how REVER got started, how to use the app, and many of its features and benefits, including turn-by-turn navigation, trip planning, recommended routes, 3D maps, twisty roads, communities, challenges, and much more. You can find the Android and iOS versions of REVER on your smartphone's app store, or you can go to rever.co. Hey, Justin, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Great. So you're the co-founder, one of the co-founders of REVER, which is a leading powersports trip planning and routing app. And for listeners who aren't that familiar with what REVER is all about, give us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, that's right. One of the co-founders. And you pretty much nailed it. REVER is a motorcycle app for people to track rides, plan rides, find good places to go. We've got almost 2 million users all over the world, doing all sorts of rad stuff every day, which is fantastic. And yeah, I started it. One of the people who did here in Colorado. I actually kind of spun out of Butler Maps. I know a lot of people, probably a lot of your listeners, have used a Butler Map in the past, and that was another business that I helped create about 13, 14 years ago. And so kind of in that experience of going out and riding and finding great places to explore and showing people those places on a paper map, people started asking for them digitally. And in the early days of that, it was really trying to figure out how we could get, like SD cards into a Garmin, which now looking back is like, wow, I can't believe that we were trying to do that, or people do. And some people still do. But ultimately, it became obvious that the computer in your pocket was going to be the future. So we started going down a path of mobile development, and the Butler Map stuff lives as content in REVER, along with a bunch of other features, and that was kind of the earliest beginnings.
So I was actually familiar with Butler Maps before REVER got started, and you guys and Butler Maps still exists. Is that correct?
Yep.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys have beautiful fold-out maps. They're they're waterproof. I know even with like the backcountry discovery routes, there's like a companion feature film. There's a Butler Maps that goes with it, and then you guys created maps for states and regions and so forth. Super helpful. So that gave you a lot of experience with routing, and like you said, I know the Butler Maps graded roads. They were kind of I don't know exactly what the grading system was, but it was, I think the color red was the best, and then there was orange or yellow or something like that. But
Yep.
That was the thing. It wasn't just a map; it was something to guide people to some of the best roads. But like you said, where people have gone to using more GPSs, and then GPSs have almost gotten kind of pushed aside like digital cameras by smartphones. So It makes sense to then go to an app format. So you said that the Butler Map content where the graded roads is part of the REVER app?
Yep, it is. And yeah, Butler, we spent a lot of time. Well, that began, I had ridden around the world in 2007. And then having gone all over the world on a motorcycle, was really thinking about how much I had not explored just in, my own country. So as a result of that, and my business partners there who had the Butler idea going, we ran with it. And, it's really easy to know the roads in your backyard, so if you ride a lot every weekend. And there's definitely the guys who have become experts locally, but it gets really confusing to open up a map and go, well, I know I want to go to Oregon. I'm from Colorado, but I have no clue. You look at a map and you go, these all look like they could be something fun, right?
Right.
So we just started going out and riding, and we just documented it. And you know, that's what we did. We just graded the experience of a road, the gold being the best. We called them G1. Those gold roads are also in REVER. So you can open up the REVER app, scroll around on the map, turn that filter on for incredible roads, and see every single awesome road that fits that bar in the country. And not because we guessed at it or we asked somebody, it's because we physically went out and rode all of them, which was a super fun time in my life.
So again, for somebody that hasn't used REVER before, or a similar type, any kind of, again, I think some people think of, sometimes, okay, there's paper maps and then there's a GPS, and a GPS
Yeah.
is something that, all right, well, you either track your ride or you basically put together a ride in advance. And so sometimes you can download a GPX route from somebody's website, or they'll send you one. If you if you got the patience, you can use Garmin Basecamp. Very powerful software, but not very user friendly. So how does REVER make it different than using a traditional GPS?
Yeah, so the traditional GPS, it's really good at just those things, giving you navigation turn by turn, showing you a map and where you are in the world on that map. You can record rides, although what you do with those recorded rides out of a GPS sometimes can be funky. You have to open up in Basecamp and know that software. And of course, there's nothing about, finding awesome places to ride in the GPS itself. So it's just a very tactical tool. REVER and the phone, as an alternative, is everything that the paper map is, plus the GPS, plus a lot of social things that we as riders really appreciate. At least I do, because to me, and as you know, being in the industry, being a long time rider, a lot of people identify themselves as it's part of their identity. So it's not just a thing, it's not just a tool to get you from A to B. It's like who we are. So sharing that with other people is important and part of the experience, and you can do that in REVER as well, which you can't do with the paper map, obviously, or with the GPS. So yeah, all the roads are in there, and we kind of look at it as servicing the entire rider journey, starting with I'm sitting in my kitchen, or I'm sitting at the bar or coffee shop with a buddy, and we're dreaming about going somewhere and anticipating. And REVER helps with that. So we've got the thousands and thousands of recommended rides, roads, off-road trails, 2-track, all of that stuff. Then you have I'm actually going out on the ride and I'm physically on my bike now. And we have a lot of features. I should back up one. We have the trip planner, so you can see all the places to go ride. Then you can plan your trip around it. There's no syncing, there's no plugging cords in. You hit save and it's in the cloud, it's in your account. That ride is forever. Then when it comes time to go ride, you put your phone on your bike. A lot of people do. You don't have to. You can get turn-by-turn navigation. You can also just see a blue line on a map of the route you created and follow your line against it. We've got tons of little things that really help enhance the ride too. 3D maps, weather tracking. We've got a friend tracking feature. So if we're riding together and we're friends in REVER, I can turn that feature on and see where you are in real time, which is help me, optimize my weekend riding by not losing people. So there's all that kind of during the ride stuff. And then there's the after we thought about it, after we went on it, we're back at the coffee shop or the bar reflecting on it, and REVER helps out there too. You can scroll through a feed of every ride that you've ever recorded. For me, that goes back to 2014 when we started building REVER, and I've been all over the world for lots of different things, lots of different reasons riding, and I can go back and see a heat map of every ride that I've done in the last 10 years, which is pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that's the reflection part, which it's great. Sometimes most of the time I don't have a planned route. If I'm just out riding locally, I kind of know where I'm going, but I record every ride and I can go back and look, and I can easily share it. So people come to town, people come to Colorado and they go, oh, what should I ride? I say, just look at my feed and do, this Independence Pass ride or something, and they copy it and they're off to the races.
So for those that are REVER users, you mentioned you've got 2 million users. You can have the app and use it in some capacity for free, but then there's a pro account. So let's get those distinguished a little bit in terms of capabilities and features.
Yeah, most of the core stuff is free, which is on purpose. We want people to use REVER every time they go ride, whether that's recording or friend tracking or just looking at the 3D maps or joining a challenge, whatever it is. Those are all free activities. There is a pro feature, $39. There's a lot in it. You get the friend tracking, you get weather alerts. The Butler Map stuff is probably the biggest thing in turn-by-turn direction. So that took a huge investment in time and resources, Butler Maps, to go ride and rate all that stuff. They don't give it away for free in the paper maps, and we also don't give it away for free in REVER. So that's kind of one of the bigger pro features is access to all of that stuff, which also exists in Germany as well. We spent the summer in Germany, in Northern Alps, riding around. So there's stuff for folks there too,
Awesome.
content-wise. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, again, somebody is, let's say you'd mentioned, for example, hey, I live in Colorado, I want to go to Oregon. And so if they're looking for recommended rides or routes, how do they access those in REVER? Can you search for them? Can you just go to an area? I mean, because I realize that the Butler Map road ratings or gradings are part of the pro, but again, those are just individual roads. They're not necessarily routes per se. So how does somebody access or find routes?
Yep. So when you open up REVER, you land on a map, and in the top right corner, there's a little binocular. You hit that and you can access, we got them filtered by paved roads and off-road routes and adventure routes. So depending on what type of riding you're looking for, we have them categorized like that. And the Butler stuff is in there, you're right, as road segments. So we'll just tell you, hey, that road is good. That road is good. And if you're planning a loop, maybe patch all the colorful ones together in any way you like. But we do also have recommended route loops, point to point, all that sort of stuff. And those things are free in REVER. And actually, we just launched a feature last week. Well, gracious folks like you have been helping, populate content in there. You guys are always out doing incredible things and going to cool places. So that stuff lives in there. Anybody can go find it. But now we're allowing any REVER user to submit routes that they think are worthy to the community. So if you plan a ride or track a ride, now there's a button that says submit it essentially to us. We've got some people behind the scenes who scrub through everything. We don't need 20 different, Highway 1 rides as an example. One is enough. So they go through and scrub and say, yeah, this does look like a cool ride. And it doesn't just kind of loop around a neighborhood in some guy's, yard in Sandusky or something. Like it actually, so it gets scrubbed. It has to meet a few different benchmarks that we put in there. But we're also growing content like that, which should be cool because there are gaps in places that we haven't been, a lot in the Midwest, for example, and all over the world. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go ride as a full-time job anymore all over the world. So we have to rely on other people to help.
Well, since January of 2021, you guys have created maps for us for the magazine. So they whenever we have a travel story, a ride story of the magazine, we've got the REVER map. You guys have got a QR code, so somebody can scan that with their phone, pull that up in the REVER app, and actually see the route. And so these are routes that contributors and writers put together, and they're exploratory, and so they sometimes hit on some areas people may be interested in. Sometimes they're out for a week and somebody only has a couple days, but all of those reside within the Rider Magazine community. So tell us a little bit more about how the communities work. Like for Rider, it's like, hey, if you wanted to find all of the published routes that are that have been in Rider Magazine, you can go to that community and find them and scroll through them and so forth. So how do the communities in general
work? Totally. Well, the community's functionality is an evolving thing for us. We're always improving, tweaking, changing, but the core concept, you kind of nailed it. If anybody can create a community, it's really for groups of riders that go beyond yourself, right? Like if it's just you have your profile, you can all do all the things in the profile, but a lot of people ride in groups, or they're looking for groups to go ride with, or they're looking for groups to, have recommendations, or reputable folks like yourself to give recommendations. And that's where communities really is helpful. And we use them for events a lot as well. We help produce the Get On ADV Fest as an example. We've helped KTM a ton over the years, and BMW and TourTech and lots of others over the years with events. And really, it's a place for groups of people and groups of rides to stay organized. So if you go into the Participate tab, I'll get into what the rest of that means, but there's a Participate tab in the app, and you'll see communities. You can search, for instance, Rider Magazine, and then every ride that you've ever put together for us is in there. You can easily click on it, easily copy it in your own profile and explore it, go ride it if you want. Cool. And that's true for events all over the world as well, which is really cool. We did a KTM event in New Zealand, 5 years ago. And I just went in there the other day browsing around, Folks listening, if you're ADV riders and want to go to New Zealand, the routes are insanely cool, and they still live there in the KTM ADV New Zealand community. So it's really handy.
And this year, just a couple of weeks ago, was Barricade, the big touring rally up in Lake George, New York. It was their 40th anniversary. You guys did, I know they do some self-guided rides. You guys help them out with some routing for that?
Yep, that's another great example of how communities are getting utilized. We put all the routes from Barricade into an Barricade community. You know, they put a lot of effort into designing those routes and lunches and all that stuff, so people pay for them, but people paid for the rides. They got access to the private community, and all the rides are in there, and they're off to the races. They don't have to download anything. They're all just right there.
So, you know, for the, let's say, like I live in Southern California, and even though I'm on the coast where it's pretty crowded, you know, I can just go 20 miles inland and I'm in Los Padres National Forest. I'm out of cell phone range and so forth. So how does it work if somebody's got a route that they want to ride and download? Can they download it to where it's functional offline? You know, do they download it to the app, or is it always in the cloud?
Yep, good question. So two things with offline maps. One, your cell phone will work even without cell phone service. It can still use the GPS. So you'll see your location.
Okay.
Even if you have it turned, well, even if you have an old phone that you don't have connected to cell phone service, the GPS should still work.
Okay.
The maps are what need to get cached or kind of downloaded ahead of time. And that happens two different ways. One, we actually just updated our caching algorithm to sound techie, but we're looking into the future along your route, and we're caching the map tiles ahead of time. So just one little easy hack tip that I like to do. If I'm going on a ride, I'll zoom in and zoom out a bunch of times all the way around the area that I'm going. And that kind of saves those map tiles into the phone just by default. So you might be in and out of cell phone service over the course of a 2-hour ride through places like that east of LA, and the map will still be there. You'll be able to zoom in, you'll be able to zoom out. For longer, bigger trips where you're going to be off grid for a while, we do have a feature to download map tiles manually. And if you go to a little hamburger button off the main map screen in REVER and scroll to the bottom, there's this button that says offline maps, and we have a little tool. You can zoom in and zoom out, set the detail level that you want, and hit download, and that'll cache it into your phone permanently until you delete it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes an issue is just making sure that you've got the full functionality you need when if you're not connected to Wi-Fi or a cell data or something.
It can be tricky, but honestly, I've had really good luck with just zooming in and zooming out. I was in Mexico a few weeks ago riding around, and lots of zero service, but when I was at the house before going out, just, I know I'm going north or west, whatever, I zoom in and zoom out and kind of explore the area I know I'm going, and it's there. It works when I get out.
So what's the best way for somebody who's new to REVER to kind of learn the ropes, so to speak? Do you guys have some tutorials on YouTube? As you find it a lot of it's really user-friendly, just kind of trial and error, or what?
Well, there is that, but it definitely is a complicated piece of software. There's a lot going on, and people come to REVER for all sorts of different reasons, which is different than a GPS, right? If you have a GPS, a Garmin, you have it because you want a map and navigation. That's kind of it.
Right.
But people come to REVER just to track rides. People come to REVER just to do the challenges and win helmets. And people come to REVER just to explore Butler Maps. And people come to REVER just to go into community. So there's lots of different reasons to come. The biggest thing, though, I would say is just poke around. Just hit buttons and see what happens. You're not going to break anything.
Right.
All your rides will always be saved in the cloud. So you're never going to delete anything permanently. So I would say that for sure. Just don't be afraid to click a button and see what happens and explore around the app. 2, we do clinics once a month called Whatever with REVER. Bjorn, who works for us, leads those. He's fantastic. He does a video call like this, and they sell out every month with 500 people sometimes in there. It's a lot of people. And then he goes through, there's a different topic every month, but he goes through some of the specifics of various topics and whatever. So one month might be specifically trip planning on the website, or specifically route building in the app, or specifically offline, things like that. So all the ones that we've done until now exist on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, or through the help tab in the bottom right corner of the app. So you can go back and retroactively look at all those. But I also encourage people to sign up and and chat with Bjorn. And we do have a full-time support staff as well. So there's chat in the app now,
Okay.
and a whole bunch of helpful FAQs and all that you kind of one touch away.
Well, you mentioned about the trip planning. I know sometimes when I'm putting together a REVER route for one of our travel stories, is I usually will do it actually on my computer. It's because I'll have access to a bigger screen and so forth. I can zoom in and out. I find it a little bit more user friendly for that. And the cool thing is, it's sort of like, I mean, you can add, you can drop pins and add destinations and tweak you can drag your line. You can do a lot of different things to sort of customize your route. And then, of course, you can save as you go. I know we usually upload, when we're doing a route for one of our stories, we'll have there's a description about the route itself, and some of the highlights. We upload some photos. And so it's kind of like its own little self-contained thing. So I don't know how often it happens, but I imagine some people maybe stumble upon the Rider Magazine community, maybe have never read the magazine, but they find a couple of routes or something. So one of the things I've never done, but you've mentioned a couple times, is some of these challenges. Like, what are those like, and are they sponsored by a particular? You said KTM did some stuff, and how does that?
Yeah, we've had all sorts of awesome sponsors over the years with challenges, and we do it a few different ways, or there's a few different types, I should say. We have kind of basic mileage challenges. We have one that runs through the whole year and resets every month. And there's guys who, I think the winner last year rode 140,000 miles.
Wow.
In every mile tracked in REVER.
Yeah.
So there's kind of those kind of iron butt long distance challenges. There's a permanent one, like I said, that goes through the whole year, but it resets every month. So there's monthly winners. And there's various versions of that throughout the year that we'll do with various sponsors, kind of just mileage based. We also do ones that are just encouraging people to get to ride, even if it's not big miles. Some people ride every day, but it's just 5 miles to work, right? But we still want to encourage people to do that and log that in REVER and kind of keep a journal, so to speak, of their experiences. So we have those. We also have POI-based challenges, which have been really fun. For a long time, Honda sponsored what we called the Pass Bagger. So we identified every single mountain pass in the United States that you could ride a motorcycle over. Some of them are paved, some of them are 2-track, some of them, are dirt, but you can drive a Corolla over them. Some of them are single track. Nonetheless, they're all in there. And if you're in the community or in the challenge rather, and you're tracking and you enter, a radius of that long that we put in there, then we automatically know you went there, and we calculate a leaderboard. So there's people that have done hundreds of those, which is really cool. Mountain passes are just fun anyway. So that's an example of POI, or just a point of interest-based challenges. Cool places to go is all we're trying to do. And another fun one is the National Parks Challenge. We have every national park in the country in there. We had a few people, I say win. It's not really, we've got, you can unlock stickers and cool stuff for your painting along the way, but we have a few people who've completed the whole thing and ridden their motorcycle to every national park in the country.
That's cool.
It's really cool. So
it's almost like a scavenger hunt or something,
Totally
looking for a way to like, hey, let's make riding fun or different than the usual thing. So that's cool.
Yep.
Well, you had said that REVER's been around since 2014. You guys are knocking on your 10-year anniversary, and it's clearly evolved a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of, I hadn't even thought of that. It's kind of crazy. We started working on it in 2014, and we kind of had a beta launch of it, and have been growing from there. BMW in 2015 was our first investor, BMW iVentures, which was a really fun ride. They were great, and we've worked with pretty much every OEM out there since then, and lots of incredible partners through challenges and just other fun things we've done in the app. It's been really, really fun.
So you mentioned how some things have clearly evolved over time, that you've added some new features lately. Is there anything that is kind of around the corner that maybe you can kind of give us a sneak peek, or like sort of where you guys are headed?
Yeah, well, the user generated content I'm really excited about. I mean, we have hundreds of routes submitted just in the first few weeks of that being live. So I think that's going to be really cool. I think we'll be able to start populating different corners of the world and country with really cool pieces of content, contributed by actual motorcycle riders and REVER. So that's really fun. That's, like I said, just a couple weeks old, but I'm excited for it. It'll scale as it goes. The community stuff is a big one for us. So we're kind of giving that a revamp, coming up soon here, but more ability to message within the communities, more ability to post things a little different and organize a little differently and cleaner, which I think is going to be helpful and cool, because there's a lot of groups of riders out there that we want to see use REVER as a home to organize their adventures.
Sure. So I know it's primarily focused on the motorcycle segment, but do you guys, and you have both on-road and off-road, but you guys do routing for snowmobiles? I know that a lot of those are trail riders and stuff. Any other power sports vehicles out there? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, everybody at the REVER office also snowmobiles here in the winter, and we use REVER for that. It's actually super cool up here to do some of the backcountry stuff and review those rides in 3D. It's super cool. But we've got all sorts of views, overlanders, jeepers. There's a pretty solid sports car contingency, the Corvette Club, Porsche Club guys. The paved roads that we like on motorcycles are the same roads that they enjoy. And they're, that's an activity for them, a passion activity, same as for two wheels. So the community stuff, the trip planning, the ride track, all that stuff works the same.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So there definitely are those guys in there.
Well, I mean, I definitely see it as a great resource, because I know, people that are obviously, most people know their own backyard and local riding area pretty well. But if you're going to venture off for a long weekend or a week, or if some people, they fly in somewhere and rent a motorcycle, and you're like, hey, I want to make sure that I ride good roads, and I don't want to sort of, kind of skunk out, is that if they can access that on the REVER app and put together cool routes. And then, of course, for anybody who's ever used Butler Maps, if you get a pro account, have access to all that Butler data, not just a single map that you may buy, but you've got access to all of the Butler map data, within REVER. That's very cool. So,
yeah, I mean, it's, if you bought every Butler map, it'd be, I don't even know at this point, $600-$700 of paper maps that you wouldn't be able to carry around with you, but with REVER, it's all there in your pocket. All the BDRs are in there too. If you hit the binoculars and go to adventure, the BDRs are the first tab there, so they're all preloaded.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're 2 clicks away from just going on a BDR.
Yeah, I know they just rolled out their Oregon BDR this year, and then they just announced the Steens Mountain and Alvord Desert BDR X and all that. So those guys are just, they've got great momentum with what they're doing, and that's been I love those guys. Had them on the podcast a couple times. They're both, Ina and Tim have been on the podcast. They're doing great work. They've got a great group of people that are doing it, and you've got one of the best BDRs right in your backyard. There, it goes through Colorado. So, yeah.
We sure do. Yeah, I helped build the Colorado one. I've been doing less with the BDR over the years. Ina and Tim have taken over and done an incredible job. But yeah, it's a great group, and we're happy to be involved with them. So.
Yeah, that's right. Because you and the guys from Tour Tech, you did the maps and stuff from very early on, back in, what was it, 2010 when they got started? So you've been involved with them pretty early
since the very first BDR. Paul from Tour Tech,
that
was kind of his brainchild, and he approached us before they did the first BDR in Washington and said, hey, would you be interested in making a paper map? And we said, yeah, sure. But of course, it's spun off into way more than us just building a paper map. We helped them design the routes, and we're in the videos and did a whole bunch of stuff over the years with them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Hey, I just want to say thanks for providing the routes and the maps in the magazine. I think that riders always had illustrated maps, and they were just kind of a static design element in our magazine for many years. And but now that there's something that people can not only see the route visually on a map in the magazine, but they can, it's got a QR code in the magazine. You can open up the route directly on your phone while you're reading. You can go into REVER, check out the route, and then, like I said, if somebody steps up to a pro account, they can get access to, obviously, all that's the communities, everything for free, but to get the Butler Maps and some of the other features, it's great. So
yeah, I hope they do. It's great to see that stuff come alive, and the stories. A map is helpful, and you get some perspective, but the words and the images go a long way towards telling a story. So that content in REVER is fantastic. People should definitely know that you're right there. You're a couple clicks away from going into the rider community and seeing all the stuff that you put together, which is all obviously highly curated and highly reliable.
Right.
Guaranteed to have a good ride. Just choose one of those and go.
Right. So how's the best way for somebody to find Rever? They just find them in an app store in their smartphone?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We have Android and iOS and a website. So you can go to rever.co and sign up, get a free account, use the same credentials when you download the apps. They're free to download, they're free to log in. You can create rides, all that stuff is free. Yeah, if you're searching, type in Rever, R-E-V-E-R. The Apple search gets weird sometimes. Sometimes you have to hit space. It doesn't show up in the first few searches. I've begged and pleaded for us to somehow show up when you type in REVER, but sometimes it does not. But I promise you it's there, and a few million people have found it. I hope others do too.
Cool. Well, yes, go to Rever's website, download the app, go check out a lot of the recommended rides. Go to the Rider Magazine community. You can see all the rides that, like I said, so we started in January of 2021. So we've had 12 issues a year and at least 2 or 3 in every issue. So we've got, dozens and dozens of rides people can go check out. So
yeah, they're really cool. And hopefully people submit their own as well. We'd love to see them. There's definitely places we've missed, and especially linking good stuff together and around themes. Like I feel like you guys do really well. It's not just the roads that you're out there sometimes for. It's like, well, I want to go see a monument. I want to go to this cool coffee shop or this lunch spot or this viewpoint or whatever it is. And tying those themes together are important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks again. And hey, Justin, it's been great talking with you. And for Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Trevinson. Thanks for listening. Keep the rubber side down. If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.